I went from hating running to running 88 miles in the span of 2.5 years. Hey y'all, my name is Carson, and today I'm going to talk about my running journey. Like I said, I hated running. Growing up, I was always forced to play a sport at any given time, and I hated all of them. And I quit all of them, and then I would join a new one and not know why I was bad, and then hate it and quit it again. Um, and when I was around 12 or 13, I went on my first backpacking trip and I started backpacking, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed hiking, I enjoyed backpacking, but that was the only exercise that I would tell you that I enjoyed. And I didn't really do any other exercise because I hated it. But I was obsessed with backpacking. When I turned 17, I graduated high school and I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail. And that was a wonderful experience. But that didn't make me get into running, don't you worry. After my AT through hike was my first year of college, which was by far the worst year of my life. It was horrible. So the summer after my first year of college, I was at home. This is summer 2022, and I was really, really bored. I saw on my TikTok, unfortunately, some of these kind of silly little treadmill workouts, and people were like, oh, these are so hard. And the thru hiker in me was like, there's no way. There's no way they're that hard. And so I was trying some of these like little treadmill workouts that people would post. And I think that I was so bored and also needed the endorphins so badly that something in me started to be like, hey, this is kind of fun. Like, I kind of like this. I could do more of this. Like, that would be cool. Um, and so the seed was planted. And based on algorithms, and my previous experience with thru hiking and my interest in backpacking, I pretty quickly, after being like, oh, running is kind of cool, started seeing a bunch of content about ultra running and trail running. It certainly piqued my interest as someone with a background in long distance backpacking. The idea of doing running, but I can be slow and I can be on trails and they have fun snacks and just going distance seemed really cool to me. But I literally was running like 3 miles max. Like, I was a baby runner and it seemed so far out of my league. That summer, probably I built up to my longest run being somewhere around 7 or 8 miles ballpark. And I signed up for my first half marathon. So my first half marathon was in October of 2022. Now, the week before I ever ran my first half marathon, I decided I should sign up for a spring 50K. Why not? So before I had ran, so at that point I had only ever ran 10 miles with my longest run, and I was already signed up for this 50K. But whatever, we'll get there. I ran my first half marathon in October of 2022. It was the Charlottesville Fall Classic. I placed third in my age group, which there weren't many people in my age group because I was like 19. But I was really surprised and really proud of that. I ran a little over 2 hours, and I was expecting maybe to get 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I was super excited about that. I ran my second half marathon in December of 2022, the Ravenna Greenbelt half marathon, and I ran just below 2 hours, which was the goal. And so those halves made me feel really good. And like I said, before I ever did the half, I was signed up for a 50K in the spring, in April of 2023. My reasoning behind that had been, oh, after people do half marathons, they do full marathons, right? And so I was going to sign up for a marathon, and I was looking, and all the road marathons that would have fit my schedule seemed really boring. I didn't want to do that. And then I was like, hey, a 50K is only 5 more miles, right? Famous last words, by the way. So April of 2023, I run the James River 50K. It was really fun. I had friends and family who came out there. I had a friend who ran it with me who had also never done an ultra. They ran it in bedrock sandals, which is crazy. It was really hot. I puked twice. I fully walked the last 6 miles. But it was really cool. It was a really cool experience in some way, and it definitely got me hooked. Um, when I was training for that 50K, I think my highest mileage week was probably around 45 miles, and my longest run was probably roughly 20, if I had to guess. Also, you might be noticing a pattern here, but before I did the 50K, I already signed up for a fall race in 2024, a backyard ultra, before I had ever done any ultra. Um, I'm not really sure what the deal is. I think that I have a little bit of intensity when I get into something, which makes sense with the through hiking and the ultra running. You've got to be a little bit crazy. So I sort of train for this backyard ultra that's in October of 2023. I did Andy's Backyard Ultra, and it's in Earlysville, Virginia. And I ended up running for 12 hours, 50 miles before I quit. If you don't know the format of a backyard ultra, it's a very unique race format. You should really just look it up, because otherwise it's going to take me a couple minutes to explain it. But my friends crewed me all day, which was really awesome. They're not runners, but it was great to have them. It was so much fun, and also the worst pain of my life. I severely undertrained. I think I had gotten cocky from the 50K, and in the ultra space, it seems like a lot of folks undertrain, or a decent amount of folks undertrain. And I think my longest mileage week in that training block, so in between the 50K in April and the backyard ultra in October, I think my longest week was 35 miles, and my longest run was like 23 miles. And the long run is fine, but the weekly mileage was abysmal. And I paid for it. So after Andy's, I had a really bad IT band injury in one of my knees. And it was really pain. I couldn't run, and even hiking was iffy, even with a knee brace. I'm self-rehabbing my IT band injury, and January rolls around, and I do some test runs, and it feels really good. And there's a couple weeks where it's like totally good, and so I'm like, oh, cool, it's healed, it's good. I'm easing into things, and so I do sign up for a race in the fall, because it's January and I have plenty of time to train, and my IT band's all good. So I signed up for the Wild Goose 36-hour event. A couple weeks later, my other IT band is injured, and it's way worse than the first one. And I don't know how. I think it was from Andy's, and I just didn't notice it, or one was bad, because my training wasn't crazy when I started easing into things in January. But my other IT band is messed up. And so I'm, again, strengthening, doing self-rehab, and it doesn't get better until May. I'm not doing virtually any training until May. I was kind of in this purgatory of like not being able to train, but having signed up for something in the fall of 24 at this point, timeline. And I was worried about training. But that summer, I had a really solid training block. I didn't have any injuries, and I was able to do the best training that I've ever done. My training was a really steady buildup, and my max week was like 60 miles per week. It was also in Utah. It was gorgeous, visiting family. And my longest run was probably like 20 miles, which is what I usually cap it at in a training block now. And so I was feeling really confident during my training block. And then 6 weeks out from the race, I get a really weird ankle injury. And I essentially stopped training because it's close enough that I'm really worried about aggravating it and not having time to let it heal. Race rolls around. It was amazing. I had so much fun. I went 88 miles in about 30 hours. If you want to see more details about that, you can watch the video on that race. I'll link it below. And it was a really surreal experience, going from 2.5 years prior, really never having run since high school gym class. Like my identity was part of my identity was based on not being someone who exercised much or like was sporty. I didn't think of myself as someone who was fit. even when I was into hiking. And then to have this kind of complete 180 of like, no, I am athletic and I'm a runner and I'm doing crazy things was really odd to me. So mentally, it was as much of, if not more, of a journey than physically. So what's next? Where do I go from here? Um, it's been a wild ride, and I've been thinking about what my running plans are for the future. I'm not racing in 2025. I'm focusing on my Pacific Crest Trail through hike, which I'm making a bunch of videos about. I don't want to injure myself before the through hike, and I want to have enough time to train for any future races. So I'm not going to put something right afterwards. That being said, once I'm settled somewhere post PCT, I also don't know where I'll end up after the PCT. Once I'm settled somewhere, I'll probably sign up for something. I really love running and ultra running specifically. I my biggest goals are like I would love to get 100 miles under my belt at some point, whether that be in a timed event like the 36-hour format, or more likely in a more traditional 100-mile race format. I am also still very intrigued by the backyard ultra. I've done one of them, and so I don't feel like I really am a master of the format, but the format is so interesting to me, and so I'd love to do some more backyard ultras. But either of those things will likely come in the future, at least in the next few years, but not this year. Regardless, I just wanted to kind of share my running journey with you, and if you're a beginner runner or interested in running, go for it. Like there's your limits. People have limits, but they're so much further than people think they are usually. And so I hope that maybe my story is inspiring to you all or just interesting. And if you're interested in content about ultra running or through hiking or caving or other outdoorsy things, please make sure to subscribe, and I'll have more stuff coming your way. Thanks for watching.